couple of stories to talk about, including, I thought we should start with this one. Prisons are now overrun by drones, apparently.
So as if we haven't got enough problems with our prisons in this country. Like, for example, they're overcrowded, they're full, we're having to let lags out early, even earlier than they normally would be, because there's no spaces in prison, so that the courts can actually send some people to jail. I mean, it's in a dreadful, appalling state, the prison estate really is. So now, the Chief Inspector of Prisons, a man who goes by the name of Charlie Taylor, has done an inspection of certain jails, and guess what? At HMP Manchester and Long Lasting in Worcestershire, now Long Lasting has housed a lot of
that used to house a lot of IRA terrorists, I seem to remember.
Indeed. Do you remember the helicopter escape from there many, many years ago? I do. Because it was full of cat A's. Anyway, those two prisons, they have admitted that they have, and I'll use the quote, ceded the airspace to drones.
Incredible.
Because what is happening, and there was over 220 examples of this in a year, of drones dropping contraband for the prisoners.
And amazingly, it varies from illegal drugs and weapons to mobile phones, one for Keir Starmer, and even takeaway meals. So they're effectively getting old Uber Eats and Just Eat to deliver stuff on a drone to them.
And,
how does that work?
And because they've let the netting fall into disrepair and other kind of methods that are there to counter these drones, they are acting with impunity, these villains. And what they're doing, because they're always inventive, they're always thinking of new ways to do it, they're dropping parcels of drugs. Now, I'm sure many people will appreciate that a small parcel of drugs can be very valuable, especially in prison, where it goes for a higher price than it does do out on the streets, for obvious reasons. So a little bag of powder, for example, that might weigh an ounce, is incredibly valuable in jail. And it's a small little bag. And these bags are being dropped, for example, in areas of the prison ground where the lawn's been cut, but the grass cuttings have not been raked up. So they drop it, it falls into the grass cuttings,
and then they rake the grass.
So it can't be seen. And then the lads, when they go out there, know exactly where to find it. Likewise, when rubbish is not being cleared away, they package the drugs up in a bin liner and drop it into the rubbish area. And the lags know exactly where to go to retrieve these drugs. And so it goes on.
Well, seemingly you know all about this, Peter, so why doesn't the prison authority know about it?
Utter lawlessness is being allowed in our jails. So consequently, people are not being rehabilitated, and they are coming out to, guess what, a life of crime all over again.
Exactly. And funnily enough, we saw a story, I think it was at the back end of last year, that more and more criminals are actually applying for jobs as prison guards so that they can aid and abet this kind of, lawlessness which is going on. I'll tell you two people who should be in jail. There's a picture of the two of them, and they look exactly like you would think they would look. Two Just Stop Oil protesters, Bligh, great name, 77, and her accomplice, Alyson Lee, 66, two women who should know better, quite frankly. They shouted Darwin would be turning in his grave yesterday. We're at Westminster Abbey, desecrating Darwin's grave. Now, I don't know about you, but this is, for me, one of the worst things that any protester can do. You know, you can throw paint over a painting, which is pretty hideous. You can throw paint over a building. But to desecrate the grave of Charles Darwin in Westminster Abbey, I think is the lowest of the low.
Westminster Abbey. Famed
consecrated
throughout the world,
ground.
One of the greatest buildings where people go to worship, practice their faith, that has ever been made anywhere in the world. And Charles Darwin, a man whose brilliance so many years ago kind of set the science timetable out for generations to come thereafter. And these two women, who should know better, they are not children, 66 and 77, possibly grandparents, who clearly have nothing better to do in their lives than to go and commit criminal damage on Charles Darwin's grave.
And all because they think the earth is getting too warm. Ms Bligh, it may not surprise you to know, who is a mother of four from Road in Somerset, led Reading Council from 1992 to 1997. And Ms Lee, who's from Derby, is a retired teaching assistant. Doesn't that tell you all you need to know?
It certainly does.
Utter planks.
Well, I would strongly expect that in future weeks and months they will both be going to jail.
Let's hope so.
Because prison sentences have been pretty stern for people committing such acts in recent times, and rightly so. And whilst they get imprisoned, which I sincerely hope they both do, they may have time to reflect upon their actions. At the ages of 77 and 66, call me what you will, but maybe they could better spend their time with grandchildren, if they have any, maybe getting their steps in to keep themselves mobile and fit and healthy, maybe doing a bit Pilates, and who knows what else.
Why not, indeed?
Rather than desecrating
it's absolutely
Darwin's
shocking,
grave.
really shocking. Good story in The Sun on page 23, a £100,000 mistake. You know, we've all made mistakes at work. This one, I think, takes the biscuit, though. This is a bungling crew member of a British Airways flight accidentally activated the emergency slide. Now, I've been fortunate enough to have flown in many different places in the world, many different planes. I've never actually had to get off a plane on an emergency slide. I don't know whether you have. But apparently the gaff at the BA flight would have cost the airline something like £100,000. The Airbus A321 was grounded and the flight from London Heathrow to Brussels was cancelled following the blunder on Monday morning.
Because it put the plane out of action.
Yeah.
So they had to get another jet to fly the passengers to Brussels.
How do you, I mean, call me old-fashioned, but how do you accidentally activate the emergency slide? Presumably there's a great big, you know, sort of lever that you have to pull, because you have to do that to open the door to begin with. In order to activate the emergency slide, you must have to do something quite deliberate.
You would imagine there would be checks and balances
in
place to ensure that you didn't do it when it shouldn't be done.
Right.
But it's not the first time. BA have had 3 such instances in recent months, by all accounts.
Yeah.
So clearly there needs to be some better training, perhaps, or a review of their systems, because it costs them a lot of money and inconvenienced many, many passengers.
Exactly right. I see from, as you say, from previous events, The Sun has also told a story of how a bungling steward had a first day to forget when he activated the emergency slide as the plane was taxiing to the runway. I mean, that is not what you want on your first day, do you? You know, what's your job? Oh, yeah, I'm a flight attendant. I've got my first job as a cabin crew on British Airways. Really excited. It's going to be great. And just as you're taxiing out, you flick a switch and all the slides come out.
Yeah, exactly. Oops.
I mean, blimey. I mean, we had some fun yesterday with the washing machine story. Maybe this is today's washing machine story. Things that you've done at work, which you probably shouldn't have done. Blunders, things that have cost the company loads and loads of money. Let's get a voice note from Dave.
Hello, Mike, Peter, great show. I don't understand what's the issue about drones or mobile phones in prison. You could easily jam the signals. Christ, I used to have a mobile phone jammer when I used to go into London on the train at Greater Anglia. I used to just turn it on and people couldn't use their phone in the carriage. It ain't hard, it's not rocket science. Anyway, great show, Dave from Southend. Cheers.
Dave from Southend. I'm pretty sure, well, Peter will back me up on this, I'm pretty sure it's illegal to block people's phone signal, isn't it?
Oh, there are jammers out there.
Yeah.
And,
well, I remember in the old days...
illegal and some of which very much
in the old days, when mobile phones first came into sort of use, you would go into... If you were staying in a hotel, you couldn't use it in the hotel because they wanted you to use the hotel phone. So they could charge you ludicrous amounts of money, you know, like £10 an hour or something. But you couldn't use your remote, so they were obviously jamming it.